The RotoGrinders Daily Fantasy Football Podcast feed is presented to you by Yahoo Sports Daily Fantasy. This week on Yahoo, on Week 2, it's the $1 Million Baller. It is back and once again continues to be rake and commission free. Tremendous value for all of you players. $20 entry. Check it out. If you don't have an account, use Grinders30 when you sign up over at Yahoo Sports Daily Fantasy.
Welcome back to the Absolutely Epic Early Week Podcast. Dean here. That's Dean 7904. We're talking NFL Week 2. We survived Week 1. Going to introduce our co-host in just a second. If you guys don't know, Absolutely Epic Early Week Podcast, we do this on a Monday night. We're currently doing it between the two Monday Night Football games. So this is the first podcast you should listen to, not necessarily the last. It's a first look podcast, batting first, leading off. It's Travis Mangone, you know, from such things as the Sharpside app. What's up, Travis?
Nothing much, man. Excited to be back on for Week 2. Looks like I got to come back, so that's good. Excited I didn't get, the boot. So, I'm going to be back to talk some Week 2 football.
You almost didn't – if you would have mentioned best ball one more time, your best ball shares, you would have been officially ousted. But
I was close. You guys are lucky. If we started the pod, if we just started a little bit earlier, I think I would have done it.
Fair warning, Mangone's probably going to be cheering for his best ball shares in the Oakland-Denver game that's going down right now, and surely he's got some showdown shares as well, too. The Gazelle, Tyrell just scored a touchdown, so he's hopping all over the place. He's super excited for sure. Returning champion, it's Grant Neiffer, you know him from the Monkey Knife Fight contest around the DFS Industries. Grant, what's going on, dude? How's Monday night treating you?
Oh, it's going pretty good. Made some money on the first Monday Night Football game. Making some money on the second Monday Night Football game. Ate a bunch of Krispy Kreme donuts. I can't get much better.
We're like 4 plays in to the original. You're taking a victory lap on the Monday Night Football game. It's in the first quarter. You've already won.
I have Tyrell Williams in my captain spot everywhere.
Who doesn't have He's the Gazelle. Who doesn't have him?
I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, you said you ate an entire box of Krispy Kreme?
No, I had a whole – I can't remember how many I ate, but it was a lot. Postmates has Krispy Kremes on it, so – my life's good.
You had somebody deliver a box, like a full box of a dozen donuts to you?
Yeah.
Okay. That's living the dream, isn't it?
Well, I get free delivery.
All I know is after
you can get free delivery with anything. I can get crochet.
Look, I could have spent 15 minutes going to Krispy Kreme and coming back, or I could get delivered instead of paying $2 for gas. I'm paying $3 for tip. It just makes sense. And my time is infinitely more important than that.
Okay. Well, Mango, real quick. Power rank, top donut.
Oh, top donut. I'm like a child, man. Like, give me the vanilla frosted with sprinkles on top.
Vanilla frosted is a thing?
Oh.
Yeah, it's just like a normal donut. It's got vanilla frosting on it with sprinkles. Either that or a glazed donut. I mean, a glazed donut's classic.
I've never heard of a vanilla frosted donut. It's chocolate or it's maple.
No, dude, vanilla, man. It's classic.
I've never seen that. It's not classic.
Have you ever seen strawberry frosted?
Yes, I have. That's a little bit weird, but I'm okay with it. I've never seen vanilla frosted.
Boston cream, is that the chalk?
Yeah, but
That's
Boston
really
cream is the
chalk.
chalk. No, Boston cream is like everyone loves Boston cream, but I'm a rebel. I don't like.
A lot of people don't like cream fillings.
All right. I don't know why I completely derailed the podcast. If you guys had like 17 seconds into the first little side conversation, there you go, cash your winnings for sure. Week 1 is down, Grant. What are our official takeaways? What do we know for sure now?
Nothing is different. Everyone's going to overreact. Nothing is different. At least from my thoughts, except for that Adam Humphries may not be very good.
Well, he's got to be in the field, and I think he had like 35% snaps or something like that. Maybe it was less. He wasn't playing a lot for what it's worth, but that's why you're going to lose Tweet or Consequences. We had one prepared for you later on in the show. A little bit wordy. We might have to work on it, but we'll fire it out there. We're going to workshop it and see what you think and see if you'll accept it. If not, we'll just do it different.
You're just going to make me workshop, and it's something that I hate even worse.
No. If you refuse this one, I will give you a new one, and you'll fire it out tomorrow on the old Twitter machine. And tell the people the rules, Grant. If they're not aware of tweets or consequences, how does this go down?
We all make a bet throughout the podcast. Loser of the bet has to tweet out something, and they can't reply to anything. They can't like any reply, and they can't tell anyone that it was a bet that we lost.
That you're not necessarily being serious, yeah. So we'll fire that out later.
Oh, there's some that we definitely thought were serious. And yeah, we definitely had some ones that did not have a positive effect on my life.
I think my favorite one is when I told the people, I had you tweet out like your grandma's favorite like apple pie recipe, whatever. And it's like slide in the DMs and I'll give you all the ingredients. Something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
We're giving out an apple pie recipe to people.
I wasn't even on the pod then. I remember that one. And
I think it was something along the lines of like, I think it might have been like an apple pie pizza. It was something ridiculous. And I think I ate it.
Dean took a picture from like a pizza on the internet too.
Oh, with Peeps. I had Peeps on top of pizza, I think.
Oh, pizza. Yeah, pizza. Yeah, I had that.
There you go. Yeah, that was fun. That was good times for sure. Mangone, Grant had no official takeaways. We don't know. I mean, it's my understanding if you read Twitter, you like one or two plays into a game, like like Grant's already taking victory laps as far as he won the showdown slate because he's got the Gazelle. Give me your official takeaways from week one. What do we know for sure? What are we still confused about? Or we're just, my general thought on it is the kind of sort of what Grant said is like if week one happened in week 7, maybe these are anomalies and there's goofy things that happen. We just don't necessarily know. We don't know, like maybe there were some weird things that happened that won't happen the rest of the season, but because it happened week 1, it feels like it's normal. Does that make sense? Did I explain that correctly? What's your takeaways here, Mangone?
Yeah, so like Lamar Jackson is on pace to break the touchdown record. Austin Eckler is, better than Melvin Gordon, no doubt in my mind.
I've been saying that for a year.
And John Ross is like the, even though he did nothing last year, he's the greatest. Marquise Brown, Sammy Watkins, who's Tyreek Hill? No one cares about him. Sammy Watkins is the greatest receiver in the NFL. So I think those are all the takeaways. I don't know if there's a tight end I'm missing. Oh, like Vernon Davis is back from the dead and is amazing. And
the one thing I didn't –
number 1 tight end in the league. There you go.
The one thing I didn't know last week that I now know is Hawkinson probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, well, I think he was a top 10 pick, and he was a legit guy coming out of college. But I don't watch a lot of college ball outside of UCF, to be honest, so I didn't really watch him play much. But and I know he crushed the combine and player profiler was all hoping too. But he looked like a beast out there from what I saw, and it's a small sample. But and he's still super super cheap this week on DK. We talked to the main slate. We talked DraftKings specific again. First look can't really branch out to all the different sites. So if you're looking for talk about Tampa and Carolina, the Thursday night game, that's not going down. Sunday night, Philly, Atlanta, we're not talking about them. And Cleveland and the Jets on Monday night, we're not talking about that either. We're focusing on the main slate on DK. Yeah, you mentioned some injuries there, Mangone. Tevin Coleman's going to miss some games. Hill's got a clavicle. Foles has a clavicle as well. Darius Geis has a knee. Mixon potentially may miss games. We're not really sure. Or maybe miss a game. He's kind of dinged up to some degree. So, we're just going to have some question marks on those guys. But obviously, value will potentially open up as the week progresses if some dudes are out. And I would say value with Hill, but they really boost up the price of Sammy Watkins. A big overreaction to his first game. He absolutely crushed. But, first game again, they're playing against Oakland, and there's 2 big totals on the board once again. 53.5 as far as KC, Oakland, New Orleans, and the Rams is 53. And then after that, we're looking at a bunch of 46, 47s. So it's a big break from those 2 games, Grant. Kansas City at Oakland, New Orleans at Rams. First thought, first general impression, which game is more appealing to you?
It's interesting. I'd say probably the Rams, but Casey, I need to dig in deeper. I mean, with Hill probably being out, the massive total here for Casey, it does make it an interesting scenario. Probably going to use a lot of Mahomes, and I don't think he necessarily gets that much of a downgrade without Hill. It's definitely a downgrade, but to the extent that some people may think it is, it's not. He can still run the offense. Andy Reid's still good enough offensive guy to make him get 340 yards. It'll hurt him slightly, but he still put up big numbers without Hill for most of that game. But the Rams, there's so many different ways to go, and people are going to probably be down on Jared Goff a little bit just because he didn't do great, and that's mostly because they kept rushing the ball in the end zone, which I know they did last year, but there are certain games where Goff will just absolutely go off, and I think that some people might be a little bit further down on him because of what happened last week, but I'd probably go with the Rams a little bit more than the KC game.
Yeah, that KC side at Oakland. We're watching Oakland play right now, and not to overreact to one thing, Mangone, but we think Oakland's going to be bad, right? We know Kansas City is good, so Kansas City obviously the highest total on the board, and their quarterback there, Mahomes did have a bit of a scare last week where he came off the field for a play or two, but I assume he's fine. I understand they lost Hill, but they're going to replace him, or at least when it comes to speed, they'll replace him with Hardman. Watkins got most of his fantasy points when Hill was out there for what it's worth, and then of course Kelsey wasn't even fully released. Unleashed that first game. How much do we love this Kansas City side as far as Oakland Mangone? Because I don't know. Generally speaking, I probably don't get all the way up to spend on a quarterback. Mahomes in my cash lineup, he's the most expensive quarterback on the board. No surprise there. It's more of like wants versus needs. And week one you could have made that work just because there was more value. And you'll notice in the salaries, a lot of guys just priced up because the first week the salaries were kind of they were soft for sure. How much are we prioritizing Mahomes in cash there, Mangone?
Yeah, I'm not prioritizing Mahomes. Like, that's just not really a thing I would do. And, like, why would you prioritize Mahomes? You can just play Lamar Jackson, right? Like, the greatest football player in the world, right? Because that's what Twitter says. Everyone said he's the MVP now. No, I'm totally kidding. But
he's the second most expensive quarterback, by the way, on the board.
Yeah, he does cost a lot. And that's why I mentioned him right below. And you're sure if you have money for, like, guys like Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, I think that's right. But when I was kind of looking at the slate, I'm not in love with a lot of the games just in general. Like, if you kind of just breeze through it, like, there's not a lot of games to love, but I do think there's like some opportunity there. And I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen with that Kansas City Chiefs situation and who's going to be the guy to go to, right? I'm assuming the guy would maybe be Mecole Hardman. He's the one that, looks like he is in line to get some work here. So, like, he's a cheap receiver option that you can consider on the Chiefs for sure. I think just, like, the way this slate is going to go just in general, and this is, like, kind of like before getting into quarterback, like, my general overviews, like, I never attack quarterback right away. It's not the first position I go to. But when I was looking at things, I think that running back is where I would want to attack first. And I think that the common theme this week is there's going to be a lot of interesting cheap value receivers. And the reason why we're going to have a lot of cheap value receivers is, one, because a lot of them crushed, and two, there's some opportunity now. And then I think quarterback, it's not a spot where I'm going to pay up for necessarily. I'm just going to kind of let my lineups dictate it. So, like, if I have the money for Lamar Jackson, sure, I think that's perfectly fine. Again, that's kind of like my cash game approach. Like, I'm not going out of my way to pay up for those guys. I'm just going to kind of let my roster fill it out.
Well, Hardman was in the field for 78% of the snaps week one, and he had one target, just throwing it out there. And we know, like, all he needs is one. If he can get to an 80-yarder, he's a burner. That's what he comes in as a speed guy. It's funny. Like, can I take a victory lap on Lamar Jackson? Because I was telling everybody he's going to crack 100 yards, get in the box, narrative street. That's where he's from. And then he threw for like 4,000 yards and, like, didn't even play a quarter or something. No victory lap? Not that I want a victory.
No, I think our original bet was who would get more rushing yards, and he got almost none.
Okay, but who's disappointed? I told people to play Lamar Jackson. Are they mad at me? Are they coming at me?
Oh, really? You and everyone else.
No, but you, Dean, you would.
Can I take my victory lap on Eckler?
I'm not. This is not me taking your victory lap for the record. I was just saying that's a point of fact, but fair enough. Mangone, I think Goff might be the guy at 5'9". The prices on quarterbacks are really compressed. He is like the 12th or 13th guy or so, just kind of getting down, looking down the list. He wasn't spectacular, but maybe he's just a reactionary. Watching that New Orleans defense still look particularly good. But that's, a high total, should shoot out on both sides as far as New Orleans and the Rams. I don't know. Is that somebody we're looking at? Just on first look, he seems like a pretty good dollar-for-dollar play.
Goff makes sense. Breeze makes sense, right? Attacking that game that likely has a high total. I don't know if the total is out yet on that game, but those would be two that I definitely would look at. There's a cheaper guy, which I don't have to talk about because I know Grant will, but it's Josh Allen at 5,300.
Yes, it is.
He's like really interesting in this spot against the Giants. Like, a lot of people are not believers in the Giants defense, and like, just go down the list of like, the players and like in the matchups they're in. Like, I'll just go through it. Like Watson against the Jaguars. Like, we all like Deshaun Watson, but the Jaguars isn't the most easy. It's not the easiest matchup. Rodgers against the Vikings. Like, we do worry about, like, the Vikings just running the ball too much. I think that's something, a takeaway that we have to think about, like them just grinding out clock and just kind of ruining the games for people a little bit. Tom Brady against Miami, like, I'll pass on that. Dak Prescott against Washington.
You say you'll pass on that?
Who wants to pick on the Dolphins? That defense is.
They have a 32.75 implied team total.
Who wants to pick on that offense?
I want quarterbacks that are in shootouts and in games where I expect a lot to, like, I want a lot of back and forth, right? I'm not expecting a lot of back and forth in that game.
You think Belichick's gonna show?
What happened with Lamar Jackson? Was that a close game versus Miami last week? Was he the highest scoring quarterback?
Oh, it's totally different.
What about Patrick Mahomes? Was that a close game last week?
It's so different with the Patriots and everything. They're just going to run the ball a lot.
The type of team that are probably going to just try and destroy the other team, especially when they have a new wide receiver that they have to get acclimated to their offense.
Antonio Brown?
Oh, is that who it is? Is that the new guy?
And where was Antonio Brown born?
My guess would be southern Spain.
Dubuque. No, Miami, of course. It's back-to-back narrative street games. Miami. It's going down. I don't know what Antonio Brown's going to do, and I have no idea what kind of package they're going to run for him if he's going to be fully unleashed. But, there's so many weapons there with Michelle.
Brown is not going to be totally unleashed. The Patriots system is too complex. We see what happened with Josh Gordon last year, and he was slowly acclimated into the offense. They don't really need him until the playoffs.
Correct.
So they're going to slowly just have him pretty much take over Dorsett's role, would be my guess.
He's a little bit interesting for tournaments, though. He's $7K, which is like cheaper than like he has been for years. Obviously, different situation when he was on Pittsburgh than he is here in New England. Just curious how he gets acclimated, how quick he's like into the system. But look, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not even about. It's about how many touchdowns, efficiency, right? For Brady, he could throw 4 touchdowns in the first half, and Grant, we wouldn't be surprised about that, would we?
No, I think Brady might. If I'm not going Josh Allen, I'm probably going Brady's my cash game guy. Highest implied team total on the entire board there. Miami's just absolutely terrible. Like, you want a floor with your cash game quarterback, but also a ceiling. There's always the chance that Miami keeps it close. It's being played in Miami in games where a team has been a 14-plus point underdog at home. I think they've covered a 75% clip over the last 10, 12 years. So this game is actually probably going to be closer than people realize. Miami's going up against a really good defense at Baltimore last week. It's not going to be quite the same. Fitzpatrick has the ability to randomly just air the ball out and put up huge numbers. Granted, he doesn't have the same wide receiver core this year, same system this year, but he's still a guy that can put up a massive amount of points. I think this game stays closer than people realize, and I think that New England is going to be passing the ball a little bit later in the game than some people believe they may be. So Brady, I think, is the cash game guy. But Trav already mentioned it. Josh Allen going up against the Giants. They have a 24.75 implied team total here. Josh Allen throws the ball deep often. He actually has a better complement of wide receivers this year, having a reliable guy like Beasley and having a better version of Foster this year in John Brown, while also having Foster. So when your main guy was Zay Jones last year, you know that this offense wasn't going to be great. And yet he was still putting up big numbers week in, week out. And he started off slow last week and then put it together. Now he's going up against a much worse defense. People figure the Jets are probably going to have a good defense this year because Greg Williams is now the defensive coordinator. But this is a much worse defense in the Giants. So I've really, really high on Josh Allen. Plus, he's still going within the state. He hasn't had to leave the state the first 2 weeks of the season.
Well, who's not leaving the sidelines is Foster. Foster barely even plays. He played 22% of the snaps last week.
I did more research. I switched over to Josh Brown.
Stop trying to make Foster happen is all I'm saying. It's not.
I wasn't trying to make Foster happen there. I said John Brown is a better version of Foster.
Foster's not good. You just stop playing him. And the other thing, as far as your Dolphin thing, and that was interesting as far as the spread, but I fired up Vegas Insider. And I wrote this, by the way, about a half hour ago or so. And then I just pulled up the page again. The line opened up. New England was a 14.5-point favorite as far as the open. It jumped to 17. Then it jumped to 17.5. Now I'm on Vegas Insider, Mangone. I know you're all over the lines as well too. Both of you guys are all the lines. It's now an 18-point line. I see an 18.5 at the Westgate. It will not stop going up, Mangone. But you don't want any part of the quarterback.
I mean, I can't remember the last time I played Tom Brady. That's like the crazy part. But like maybe I need to readjust that. Like it's just like one of those things. I don't think I played him once last season. Like the more and more I think about it, like I did not touch him at all. But I just prefer my quarterbacks in games that I think are going to be high total shootouts, right? I want a lot of plays. Like, I don't like when my quarterback is in a game where they're blowing the team out and handing the ball off a ton. Like, I just don't prefer that. Like, it's something that I think can be really frustrating when you roster a quarterback. Like, it's definitely a worry that you can have. It was definitely a little bit of a worry that I had with Wentz, but obviously, again, like the Redskins keeping that closer, that was big. But the Patriots, we do know they are a run-dominant team. Like, that is something I think you have to worry about a little bit. They are a team that likes to run the ball. Like, that's not like that's not like me just making up a fact. So I'm worried about that a little bit.
But
again, the Patriots are not always a run-dominant team. The Patriots exploit the defense's weakness. And this is a defense that just gave up 5 touchdowns through the air to Lamar Jackson. You don't think they're going to be passing the ball quite a bit?
Well, sure, they'll pass, but, like, the game script is just not going to go that way. Like, the Patriots are going to be leading. Like, I'm looking for the most opportunity. I want games where there's going to be the most, like, back and forth going on. That's when you can
the Patriots just won 33-3, and Brady still put up 3 touchdowns and 350 yards.
Okay, Grant, and Brady was awful last season. Brady was really bad last year. Brady was not good. They ran the football a lot. Like, that's a thing. Like, again, I'm not saying Brady's as bad of a play. And, like, the more I think about it, the more we talk about it, like, yeah, I overreacted a little bit to Brady. But to act like Brady's just going to go out there and throw out 4 touchdowns easy, I think is absolutely crazy to think.
No, it's not like he has it's not like he has Josh Gordon now, and he has Antonio Brown. Is that different than last year?
Or Edelman.
He had Edelman last year.
He lost Gronk smash.
Yeah, what was Gronk doing last year?
Not smashing.
Yeah.
It's fine. I don't want to argue about this one all pod, right? Like, again, like I am understanding. I am owning right now. Yes, I was lower on thinking that. But again, that's because it's like a bias that I have, and I haven't been playing Brady a lot, and I haven't played him in a while. But again, I typically like to take my quarterbacks in shootouts. Like, I want to take them in games where I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth in the highest total games. That's just how I operate when I normally build my teams. I don't like my quarterbacks when they're going to be like an 18-point favorite. That's just how I personally think and feel. It also depends on the construction. Like, I don't know if going a 6,400 quarterback is going to be the right build. Like, I don't build with my quarterback first. That's how I do it in cash games. That's how I think. So that's just where my head is at.
Hey, you can get Kirk Cousins. He threw the ball 10 times last week. That's who you like. Quarterbacks that – oh, wait, you like the opposite, don't you?
You can get Case Keenum. He crushed last week.
There's Grant's victory lap. Oh, man. You guys have any other thoughts as far as Keenum, by the way, $5K for what it's worth. Dallas looked really good. I mean, I hate to overreact on one game, Grant. That Dallas offense looks – and their defense, like Dallas can be a legit Super Bowl contender.
Dallas had a great defense. They were a Super Bowl contender last year.
No.
The defense was good. They made it to the second round of the playoffs.
Playoffs?
Dean, it's almost like the Cowboys made a really smart trade to improve their team, and now they're Super Bowl contenders. That's intriguing.
Well, he traded for a guy they can sign for free, but yeah.
Yeah, Amari Cooper, right? Bad trade, Dean, right? That's what you say?
Hey, if they win the Super Bowl this year, it's a good trade. And I shouldn't play results, and I probably should walk that one back a little bit.
Dean, the last big wide receiver trade ended with 0 games played and 2 first-round picks given up.
Antonio Brown, yes. Nicely done. Oh, man. Give me another quarterback, man. I mean, I understand. I'm the same as you as far as cash build. I focus more on just grabbing as much volume as possible in like the cheapest price, best possible spot. Try to get 3 running backs. That's just the general idea of building. I don't necessarily emphasize the quarterbacks either, Mangone. But is there somebody like on the board that you're looking at that's kind of interesting for tournaments? Like for me, you guys mentioned, for Buffalo, that's more of a tournament play, just kind of in my head. But the Giants defense secondary looks pretty weak as well too. But Allen looks kind of just sort of volatile. I know he's got legs, which is always nice. It's a nice bailout potentially for cash games too. Who do you have for me, Mangone, as far as some off the board quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I think Russell Wilson's an intriguing one. The thing I don't mind about going with the Wilson route, one, like first, Vegas has like Pittsburgh as the favorite in this game, which, I'm not a big believer in Pittsburgh. I wasn't a big believer at the start of the season. And I know they just got killed by the Patriots, and most teams do get beat up by the Patriots. But, I don't think the Pittsburgh is that good, but Vegas kind of agrees that they, are a better team than they showed. And I think this game could have some back and forth, right? And the thing I just like about Russell Wilson is, those targets are going to go to Metcalf and they're going to go to Lockett. So I think you could run like a Wilson, like you can easily run like a Wilson, Metcalf, and Lockett and run it back with Juju, or you can just go like Wilson and Lockett or Wilson and Metcalf and run it back with Juju. I know he was dealing with an X-ray or something like that, but I think he's perfectly fine. And like I said, you can go Wilson, Carson, and Lockett, run it back with Juju. So I think that's an intriguing game that I think could have a lot of back and forth that you're really not expecting. So I don't mind that. Jimmy Garoppolo against Cincinnati. I'm not a big believer in Cincinnati's defense, and I'm a big fan of the Niners in general. I think they're going to have a really big year. I like, buying in on smart coaches and Kyle Shanahan. Again, he's one of the smart coaches in the league. So I think Jimmy G is a really good tournament option as well. But I'm not feeling too strong about quarterback in general. I just don't love the position this week.
Yeah, and if you're playing Garoppolo, the tricky part with him is trying to figure out, his receivers. And, Pettis had two? I think he had two. He was in the field twice, Pettis. And, Deebo Samuel led everybody as far as their receivers. I guess the most reliable option there would just be, if you want to play it safe, you're going to play some Jimmy G, just roll him out there with the tight end, no?
Yeah. I mean, I love Kittle. I'm a huge Kittle fan. So, I would just run it back with him. And I don't know. It looks like people are going to go kind of cheap at tight end, right? I feel like people are going to be too scared to go Kelsey and Kittle after last week. I'm not trying to dive into the tight end segment, but if people are going to go, Ingram, Hunter Henry, we talked about Hawkinson as well. I think people are going to go cheaper at tight end this week. And, that obviously could, just make it really intriguing with the roster builds, right? We're going to spend up a lot at running back, spend up at the receivers. So, I think that people aren't going to go to Kittle, and I think he's an interesting guy to pair up with a Garoppolo in tournaments.
If somebody's saying I can't play Kelsey because he didn't crush the first game, that would be insane. I love Kelsey, and it's just a matter of living in the world of a salary cap. And Grant, we kind of touched on it as well. I know we're on tight ends, might as well finish off the conversation. But Hawkinson at 3K, I don't want to say. I just hope we're not overreacting, but he looked awesome out there. A lot of the Detroit guys, even Amendola looked pretty solid, and I think it was Marvin Jones didn't catch many passes. Galladay, he was out there. He was doing some things too, but didn't have a peak game, obviously. It feels like they have some legit weapons there in Detroit. Their defense is supposed to be good too, and somehow they ended up tying against Arizona. They're kind of a goofy game for sure. Grant, what do you have for me as far as tight end? Since we're here, Ingram looks legit too, at least after week one.
Yeah, tight ends. I mean, Ingram, second most targets in the entire league at any position, 14 last week. You want volume with your tight ends, and so Ingram is obviously going to be one of the main targets in that offense. Without OBJ in there, it's going to be a offense focused on Saquon, Ingram, Shepard until Tate comes back. That's pretty much what the offense is going to be. We've seen it for 2 years now. 2 years ago when OBJ and Marshall got injured, we saw Ingram destroy and we saw Shepard destroy. Then there were some injuries during the course of the season there, and whoever was the main piece in the offense destroyed. He's going up against a team who last year was a little bit higher than average at forcing targets to tight ends, so he should be in for a big game there. The Rams, I'm thinking about Jared Cook. I don't actually know how he ended up doing in this game. I don't think he ended up doing well, but he's going up against a team that forced the ball to the tight end constantly throughout the course of the season last year. He's high-priced, so for tournaments, I think that he could be in for a decent workload, and I'm not buying into this first game too much. I don't think that him doing bad against Houston in a game like this where they tend to take the ball away from the tight end quite a bit. Cook could be in for a big game. Hunter Henry, obviously a great play. He's going to be a great play every week. It may not have paid off terribly. We got Delaney Walker going against a team that forced a lot of shallow targets throughout the entire season last year. It's going to be the same this year. Vernon Davis, and off the board, Will Dissly. Didn't work out well last week. It could be him or Van Ed, but I got a feeling. This may be me being a homer, so don't go too heavy. But I'm liking the Seahawks tight ends because they really don't have many guys to throw to.
Yeah, I think Dissly got dinged in that game, but they're saying I guess he should be fine as of right now. He's questionable. Mangone, are you typing away, Mangone? Are you multitasking over there? Here's somebody typing.
I was clicking. I was looking at some stuff on my computer. But, what were you mentioning, Dean?
Well, Grant wanted a whole tight end rant. I guess
I was worried. I missed the segment where you said we're going to tight ends now. I know I touched on them briefly, but I didn't know if we just jumped into tight ends as a segment.
Periodically, I'm just going to ask you, knock on wood if you're with me. There you go. little callback for you if you watched the John Gruden there in Hard Knocks. Mangone, open up the running backs for us because, that's for me, that's my favorite conversation. I think it's super important. Receivers, a little bit more variance there. Barkley absolutely crushed last week, but they barely gave him the ball. Tough matchup against Buffalo, obviously. Elliott versus Washington at the top. Kamara looked awesome. I didn't see his final numbers, but he had his usual allotment of catches, probably close to 175 yards tonight. both rushing and receiving combined. Where else are we looking as far as running backs? As far as the top guys, Dalvin Cook against Green Bay doesn't really jump off the page. He got a price bump. Lots of price bumps all over the place. Carson got bumped up a little bit. Fournette, like a little bit of bump as well. Even Eckler. Everybody's a little bit more expensive this week. A little bit tighter as far as the build. Who's your top guy amongst this bunch?
Yeah, it's tough because like Barkley at the top, it's so intriguing, right? At 9,200, I think he's a really good option. Buffalo's that defense, it scares you a little bit, but I think he's a good play. But he's not my favorite play in this range. I get people might want to say Zeke is going to eat right now. He's got the rust off him, but I'm still taking the wait and see approach with him for a little bit longer. I'm going to Alvin Kamara. That's the guy for me against the Rams. I think he is the number one running back that you want in the week, the number one scoring running back. We saw what McCaffrey did last week, and I'm not saying because McCaffrey did that, Kamara's going to do that. But the Rams last week, like they were a team that I wanted to attack them with a running back, and I didn't play as much Christian McCaffrey, and I'm not making that same mistake again here. This Rams run D is not that good, and we know the Rams are a team. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of back and forth. I expect this pace and tons of plays to be up, and up. And what happens when the game is a back and forth game, Dean? Who do the Saints use? They use Alvin Kamara. He is going to get a ton of run here. He is going to absolutely smash. He is the lock and load play of the week for me.
Well, I know Carolina's not in the slate at all, but I was looking at the snaps and all that. Christian McCaffrey played 100% of the snaps again. They're just going to destroy this guy. They're going to break this guy, right? They're just going to use him up, throw him on the ground, and then replace him.
Did you not see the pictures before the season started? He's ripped now.
Oh yeah, well so is DK Metcalf, but like you still.
Yeah, how did he do this season?
He started off pretty good. Actually, I thought it was pretty interesting because Metcalf had a good game. It took a while for Lockett to get going, and Lockett said after the game, his comments were like he was getting double-teamed the whole time, so he was sort of surprised about that. And I'm not sure if that's like the Doug Baldwin effect with him not being in that anymore, but that's definitely something to monitor. And maybe Lockett was not doing a good job, adjusting to the double teams. He did catch a long touchdown pass. Besides that, Lockett basically did nothing. Just sort of a side note there.
Well, they got to use Metcalf while they can before he gets busted for steroids. So use him now while you.
You're making. Are you serious? That's all natural, man. That dude's buff. He takes natural supplements.
He's on deer antler.
Dean, if the next time you see me, I look like that, you're gonna say I'm on steroids. Knock it off.
Well, you and Metcalf are two.
You'd have to grow like 8 inches.
You have two different builds. You have a really positive self-image if you're comping yourself to DK Metcalf.
Give me a couple of months. I'll be there.
Mangone's going to be in the ESPN The Body magazine like in 2021. Yeah, so Grant, I actually agree with Mangone. I think that dollar for dollar as far as those guys. David Johnson.
You agree I'm going to be in the body issue?
Well, everything. Collect all across the board.
I agree with Dean. You're never going to have a body like that.
Hey, you know what? You never know. Check back in 6 months. We're getting spelt.
No, I 100% know.
Yeah, well, you're right. Yeah, you're 100%.
Let's get back on track.
Why are you killing dreams, Grant?
I'm just trying to be realistic.
That's fine.
Am I going to talk about running backs yet?
Yeah, well, you're wasting your allotted time right now.
I have as much time as I want. I've been here since the beginning. Yeah, I'm kind of the same at top. Like, I like Saquon, but I think Kamara's probably the better play. Rams, it's going to be a high-scoring game. We saw what happened last year. They forced a lot of targets to running backs. I think Kamara's going to end up eating here. Off the board plays, I don't think people are going to keep playing Chris Carson at this rate or at this price, but he's still going to be involved in the pass game. He doesn't have 3 running backs on this team. It's just him. Penny hasn't looked great, so we know that he's going to get a big enough workload. We know that he's good at back, and we know that Seattle's going to run the ball way more than they probably should. So I'm really into him. I think Connor's price is a little bit too cheap here at $6,800. I think that he's in for a pretty big game at that price tag. I still think you can use David Johnson at really low ownership going up against a Baltimore defense that is good, but I still think that David Johnson could be in for a big game versus virtually any offense. And we didn't talk about Kyler Murray, but I think that he's also in play for tournaments just because he does have big upside here, even going up against a very good Baltimore defense. On the lower end, Gio, if Mixon's out, he's very much in play. I still think Eckler's a little bit too cheap. I don't expect the same game they had last week, but he's going against Detroit, who did offer 25.3% target share to running backs last season. So he could be in for a big game. Breida, if Coleman's out, $5,200 starting running back against a bad defense. He's in play. And then a guy that may end up becoming chalky, but maybe not. I don't know. Chris Thompson, we talked a little bit before the podcast. but he's 3,900. We saw how big of a game he can put up in the receiving game, going up against a Dallas team where they're probably going to be losing towards the end of the game, and the game script will favor Thompson. They've shown that they aren't a big fan of using Peterson, so they use Chris Thompson a lot more, especially if they're coming from behind here. He could have 90 yards receiving. He had 10 targets last week, and that was like mostly after Geis got hurt. That was mostly in the second half here. This is a guy that Case Keenum can rely on, and he'll probably dump off the ball quite a bit too. 3,900 is way too cheap for Chris Thompson here, and I think that he absolutely destroys his price tag.
Yeah, the tricky part, Grant, is that, last week Peterson was a healthy scratch.
Yes, I get it, because they had too many guys in their offense. But Peterson's also what? Your age?
Oh, he's older, but he's in better shape. I don't have the same body image as Mangone. I don't think.
I think you have a better chance of looking like Adrian Peterson than Mango does of looking like DK Metcalf.
Neither are true. It's like they're both like zero. But yeah. So the players, apparently some of the players are upset about him being a scratch, and I imagine that if Geis can't go and it's not looking promising for Geis, they'll probably dress. But like you said, we think Dallas probably gets ahead in theory. But like, of course, it's like a 5-point line right now. What's 5 points? But Thompson, you're right, can be an absolute steal at 3.9K on DK, 4-point PPR. He looks like an awesome play. A little bit of hesitation if Peterson plays, which he probably will. But they're still going to work Thompson in because he's not going to go out there and just carry the ball 30 times. Just I don't think so. Mangone, you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in love with that situation, but again, it's Monday, right? Like, I don't have to make that decision right now. Like, I think that's something you wait for like the later pods to figure out. Like, we just don't have the information on what they're going to do, so it's tough to really decide what you want to do with the situation there. I kind of like Matt Breida. It sounds like Coleman is going to miss, right? So I think Breida is going to be a very, very chalky option against Cincinnati. Everything just lines up really, really well for him there at that price. So Breida is someone I will definitely be targeting in on. He seems like a really good value play that I'll be considering in cash. I'll be considering in tournaments as well. But the range just like the most interesting to me is like that 6K-ish range, right? How do we approach this, right? So let's start with Chris Carson at 6.4K. I think against the Pittsburgh, we just have to trust what Seattle's been saying. I was saying this to you, Dean. I said, they told us last year they were going to run Chris Carson in the ground, and we laughed at them, right? And then they did that. And then they said that they're going to give Chris Carson 50-plus targets this year, catches, and he's getting all of those catches, right? He's getting tons of work. Like Chris Carson in this game, I think he could be phenomenal. Sonny Michel, I think, could be a really good option, but he's not as much of a DraftKings player, right? He doesn't fit the mold of that pricing, but he could be really interesting. I could see him going for 2-3 touchdowns if they just run it a ton, so he makes some sense. Austin Eckler is a phenomenal option here, so I like him. I'm wondering if people say, hey, Mark Ingram's a really good option based on what he did last week and go up against a really bad Cardinals defense. I wonder if people kind of get on that train. I wonder if people are really interested in Derrick Henry based on what he did last week and going up against the Colts, seeing what Eckler did. Maybe people just jump on him at the 6K range. I don't think they do that, but again, people get that bias after 1 week and think that that's a thing. Also, a guy like Marlon Mack, I know the Titans are not really a defense like we thought we wanted to attack, and I still think we can attack him a little bit, but I don't love those game scripts as much. But Marlon Mack, he got all of the work, kind of like what the Colts told us, that he was going to be this workhorse back. So Marlon Mack could be an intriguing option if you think that game shoots out a little bit. So I think there's just a lot of different options between 6.4K and the 5.8K-ish range.
First look, who's your favorite in that group?
Yeah, first look, it's I kind of leaned to Sonny Michel. I was kind of building a cash lineup before I got on here, and it was I put Kamara in, then I put Carson in, and then I put Eckler in. Those are kind of the guys I went to. And again, because I kind of tend to just want to get good running backs in there and really prioritize though and not take too many chances at the bottom. So my first lean is Carson, number 1, and I'd say number 2 is Eckler.
Just want to note, by the way, with the injury to Coleman, Breida had 44% of the snaps last week. Raheem Mostert was getting some run too, so I don't think it's just going to be Breida's backfield. Just kind of throwing it out there. He'll probably get enough because he's cheap enough in theory, or at least good enough to play if nothing else in tournaments. Juszczyk gets some run too, but he's mostly a blocking fullback, right? He doesn't actually carry the ball because he was out there a good bit.
That schmuck, he got a penalty for a pick play, and Kittle got a touchdown taken away. So I'm not a fan of Kyle Juszczyk right now.
Was that the game that had 4 touchdowns taken away from tight ends exclusively?
He had 2, and I was so excited. At least when I saw the 2 Kittle touchdowns get taken away, I was furious.
Great, on the other side lost 2 touchdowns as well. That's what happened there. If you were a tight end in that game, basically you're not allowed to score. That was just the rules. Grant, receiver. Open it up for us.
Oh, gosh. I didn't know we were going to receiver. I thought we were going to ask my opinion on the 6K running backs, which the answer is
because
exactly.
you spent so much time talking about nonsense, we're already falling behind.
No, I had no nonsense. You're full of nonsense.
This right here could be used for talking about running backs if you wanted to.
Well, I don't need to talk about running backs anymore. We're on to wide receivers. Stay on topic. So there's Josh Gordon and Edelman, both of which are in a total. It's 32 points for the Patriots here. Brown is probably not going to be fully incorporated in the offense. Josh Gordon's just 5,800, and I think he could be in for a really big game. Huge. I'll just start from the bottom up. Huge fan of Cole Beasley and John Brown again this week. I already mentioned with Josh Allen. Terry McLaurin, he could do something. He's 3,800. I don't know if I'm chasing that. Danny Amendola, I am absolutely chasing that. 13 targets, and he's going up against a team in the Chargers who Hayward is probably going to shut down either Galladay or Marvin Jones here, meaning that a lot of the targets are going to be forced over the middle like they have in the past, where they had 50% of targets going to the running back and the tight end. So it's going to be forced a lot over the middle. Amendola's going to live in that area, and he could potentially be in for another 10-target game. Devontae Parker, they're going to be coming from behind. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. The defense isn't nearly as good in New England as it was over in Baltimore. Parker's just 4,100. I don't think he's going to draw a lot of ownership like the rest of the guys will. I don't know if I'm chasing John Ross. I don't know if I'm going to go with any of the Arizona wide receivers, even though they're a little bit too cheap, considering the hype that was happening before the season here. And then up at the top, you got to love Hopkins. You got to love Thomas. You got to love Keenan Allen. Yeah.
Is anybody chasing this Hollywood Brown character?
Wasn't he only in for like 30% of snap?
I think like 12 plays.
Yeah.
To be fair, like that game blew out. Like the Dolphins, it was like 50-0 at the half or whatever it was. So not that egregious, but it was, preposterous, obviously. And a lot of the starters got pulled. But, he was, I think, for a total of 12 plays and way behind the starters. Sure, he's a home run hitter. Sure, there's some speed there. But look, I'm sorry. I can't do it unless the timeshare changes. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I don't know if you're asking me or Trev. Yeah, if he's getting only 12, let dumb people chase that.
Mangone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to chase that. I'm perfectly fine. And I just think there's like a lot of cheap receivers to consider. Like I said, Hardman, I think, is going to be certainly in play. Metcalf is certainly an intriguing option after what happened last week. And obviously talking about Lockett and all the double teams that he saw. The guy, he's just going to be the chalk, right? And I mean, every time I look at my TV right now, I just see it. I just see a gazelle prancing everywhere, right? I see Tyrell just crushing. So I think everyone's going to play him against the Chiefs. Again, when you're playing Kansas City, you're going to be losing, right? Positive game script for the Raiders offense for their passing game. And this is going to be really good for Tyrell Williams. So really like him. He's 4.4K. I'm looking to lock up, Tyrell Williams against Adam Humphries at 4.3K, Grant. Any chance I'm getting that?
No. No, I've learned my lesson.
Fair enough. But yeah, there's a lot of really interesting options there. Like I think this cheap range has a lot of different routes and ways that you can go. Like I'm curious if people do attack John Ross again. Like I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I doubt it, but I just think like after all those guys performed, like you're going to see a lot of like weird ownership on these cheap guys that you're like, okay, like why is he owned? It's just the week one bias thing. Like I think just some people are going to be paying the rake by playing some of these plays, like Brown you talked about as well.
Debo, 3.7K. Again, I don't know how it's going to change week to week or how it's going to go down there in San Francisco, but Samuel at 3.7K versus Cincy looks pretty interesting. Amendola's 3.9K, saw a ton of targets last week. And the thing with the Gazelle is, like, obviously a situation changed with Brown leaving, so all those targets, it kind of shifted over to him, or at least a good portion of them shifted to him. And because it's a Monday night game, the prices are already out. The prices don't adjust. Just understand that's how this. If you guys are new to NFL DFS, if weird things happen on Sunday night as far as Sunday night game or the Monday night game, those prices are already set. So if injuries happen, you got to definitely take advantage of that. And I agree. He just seems too cheap. It looks like, again, this was predictable. Mangone, tell me he's in all your lineups. I hope he is.
Yeah, he will be in all of my lineups. So I'm definitely excited to be playing a ton.
You're saying will be. I'm talking about the present tense. Your lineups that are going down right now. Is he in your lineup?
Oh, yeah, he will be. Actually, I literally and people are going to hate me for this right now, but I literally bumped a tweet of my Tyrell Williams best ball shares. And So get this. CSU Ram likes my tweet, and I look at Twitter. A minute later, he goes, PSA, please stop taking week 1 best ball victory laps. Pride comes before fall, and it's really annoying. So, like, literally no shot at me, right? He just liked my tweet. So I thought that was really funny.
What else do you have here, Grant, as far as receivers? At the top, can I throw a take out there?
Go ahead.
We haven't really blocked our bet in just yet. Usually that kind of happens organically throughout the show. And, I mean, if Mangone wants to pick quarterbacks against Tom Brady, we can play that. Me and Grant will fight over Brady. I'll take Goff or whatever, dollar for dollar, and Mangone can pick his quarterback too. But receivers, I like I like Juju to bounce back. Pittsburgh got embarrassed last week. I think he comes back strong with a home opener. Reasonable price here, about like 6 or 7 receivers down. I think, he's the number 1 guy there. He's going to be a monster. He's going to have weeks where he's the best receiver on the board. And I'm not afraid of that Seattle defense, that Seattle secondary, anything Seattle. I like Juju a good bit. Like, I don't know if he's my cash guy. I don't know if the build's working just yet. But Grant, Juju's one of my top receivers that are at least jumping out to me on a Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, people forget that the Patriots tend to try and lock down the number 1 target on any given team. And now without Antonio Brown there, Juju is going to be the obvious focal point of that passing offense is being played in Pittsburgh, which gives him another bump. Seattle, they kind of try and shut down the middle of the field there. I think tight ends had a 15% target rate, the lowest in the league against Seattle last year, and they didn't really let too much into the running back. So it was more forced to the outside. And Juju, he's going to be working all over the field, but he's probably going to be in for a pretty big game here. I don't mind that at all. And looking up at the top, Adams going up against Minnesota, Michael Thomas going up against the Rams could be fine. Hopkins going up against the Jags, you're right. No one really has a good matchup outside of Keenan Allen and Juju up near the top. And those are my top 2 guys up at the top.
What do you say, Mangone?
Yeah, so, what about Michael Thomas, though, man, against the Rams? I think that's a phenomenal spot for him to really have a good game. So Michael Thomas is good, but Juju is definitely an interesting option there at 7,500. I'm curious about the injury. I'm not that worried about it, but we'll see how things develop throughout the week. Keenan Allen, he's perfectly fine too. But we haven't mentioned, right, with there being no Tyreek Hill, what do we do with Sammy Watkins? 7,200. Dean, is that too egregious of a price for you to pay? But there's no Tyreek Hill.
I mean, he's not in my cash games, but if you're playing tournaments, he's got to be in your tournament pool. And we kind of mentioned Hardman was on the field; he just wasn't doing anything, but he's a body out there for sure. They bumped that price up really aggressively. Let's put it that way. He's super expensive. He's more expensive than Thielen, Edelman, Hilton. Just kind of run down the list. Woods. I never really know what they'll do with the Rams receiver, but I think Woods are the most targets, if I'm not mistaken, taking a glance. And that game, they should, have plenty of opportunity against New Orleans. That secondary, that defense did not look particularly well. And outside the dome, I don't like them so much either. Just to answer your question there, Mangone, you can't pay 7.2 for Watkins in cash, can you? And this is probably a different guy, and he's always been a guy that's kind of in and out of the lineup. And when he's healthy, he's legit, and it is Oakland, so maybe he's worth considering. But it's $300 less than my boy Juju. I can't do it in cash.
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's funny, right? Because you just see it there and you're just man, where are all the targets going to go? And it's the Raiders, right? You guys tell me how Tom Brady is going to absolutely smash the Dolphins. Well, are the Chiefs going to absolutely smash the Raiders? And who's going to do it, right? Why don't I want Sammy Watkins then?
Well, because there's McCoy and there's Williams and there's Kelsey and there's there's just so many different options as far as running up the score. It's the same thing with New England. And maybe you just want the quarterback. Maybe you want Mahomes. Maybe you want Brady. Just kind of if you avoid those running back touchdowns, you're good.
No, yeah, that's perfectly fair, but it's worth the conversation, right? We have to have the conversation this week. What are we doing with Sammy Watkins at 7,200? It's definitely something you have to discuss. So, thought it was interesting, and I like how DraftKings obviously priced him up, and obviously they priced him because of the performance too. But it helps, right? I don't granted, I know I'm going to play a lot of Tyrell Williams next week because of his price, but I don't like when it's like that. I like when the guys are priced accordingly and there's actual decisions that have to be made. So that's how I feel. One guy I think that's interesting, though, in the mid-tier that I wanted to bring up was Tyler Boyd, right? Again, I always think the Niners, right, they're not that great of a defense, and there should be a lot of back and forth in that game. And Tyler Boyd really got fed a bunch in that game early. And I'm a big Tyler Boyd fan. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a really, really nice option here. One question I'll ask you, Grant, what do you do with the Rams receivers, right? Because we're expecting a lot of, we're expecting a lot of points to be scored. We're expecting a shootout. Who do you want? Do you want Cooper Kupp? Do you want Woods, or do you want Brandon Cooks?
It's the same thing every single week. I don't know is the answer.
That's my answer.
Like I'll do 5 Ram stack and I'll have 2 wide receivers in every single one of them. And I'm not whoever fits. It's just whoever fits into that stack goes in that stack.
Oh, did I miss something? Did Mangone just become the host of this podcast? I feel like that just happened.
Listen, Dean, someone had to make sure we stayed on track, and Grant actually got to talk about, the mid-tier of this position, okay? Because you took
it's not like I talked about the mid-tier when you weren't paying attention earlier. Too busy tweeting about your Tyrell Williams best ball shirt.
He's stroking himself with CSU, giving him a like. He's all excited over there.
I just thought it was really, really funny that he liked the tweet and then literally just made fun of people for taking their victory laps. I just thought it was funny.
Maybe it was a sarcastic like. I don't know. There should be a button for that. Mangone, continue. What else should we talk about?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Well, D.D. Westbrook, my guy that I said was going to be above, $5,000 for the rest of the season. Let's take a price check. He is $5,400. So, going up against the Texans, expect some back and forth game. I think he's still a really good option, right? He's I don't know if he's the only show in town, but it feels like he's the only show in town.
How are you still so high on him?
Why? He did fine last week.
He did fine, but the only show in town, he was the 3rd wide receiver.
He is the guy. Come on, you know that.
We've said this before. We've literally said this before, and Big Dick Foles is not in the game anymore.
I'm still not worried about it. I think he's due for a really big season. I'm not really that worried about it. Who do you think is going to be the guy that's scared? Who's going to be the number one option there for you?
I don't think there's really going to be that much of a number one option. I think it's going to be essentially the same as it has been with the Jaguars in the past, where they have 3 guys that could potentially go off. Last year it was Cole, Lee, and Dede. Any one of them could go off in any given game. Right now it's Chark, it's Conley, and it's Dede. All of them are fine options, and Dede, I believe, is the most expensive of the 3. How much are the other guys? So
they're $4,500 for Chark, and Marquise Lee is $4,200. I'm way more confident in Dede. He's a really talented player.
Conley's $4,200. Guys, we can just pick different Jaguars wide receivers for a bet.
I don't have a hard stance on this. I don't feel, Conley had a revenge game last week, by the way. Narrative Street crushed last week. Lamar Jackson. There's a couple other good ones. Narrative Street plays also.
Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, D-Jax. He was a great play too. He ended up in some of my cash games. Victory lap number 2. Whoever at the over 1.5 victory laps, cash your ticket. I just sort of value the speed receivers, and that's just sort of, especially in tournaments. And I end up saying, just screw it. I went a little YOLO as far as having cash games too. He's a portion of my cash games, and that's why I like Brown as well. And I'm sure you like that too, Grant. Pairing him with your boy in Buffalo. I assume that's one of your favorite combinations this week.
Who in Brown?
The quarterback for Buffalo. Why am I forgetting his name for some reason?
Allen and Brown, yes. Yeah, well, I've gone over that twice already, if you weren't paying attention. Yes, Brown, Beasley, and Allen is going to be a staple in my stacking until people actually figure it out.
Beasley's really cheap at 3.8 too.
Yeah, and he got 9 targets last week.
So you're telling me that Grant is playing Allen and Beasley all season long because no one's ever going to figure out that's never going to be a 20% owned stack, right, Dean?
Well, 20% is an egregious number. Come on, stop it.
You get what I'm saying, Dean.
Well, I mean, but there's a difference between 20% and 5% or 4%.
I mean 10%. What I'm trying to say is no one's catching on. It's not, it's like fetch. It's not catching on.
Oh boy, it's a callback. Are we done with shenanigans? Are we ready? I'm done with the show. Are you ready to move on to shenanigans? Because you have tweets or consequences. We got to make our bet at some point. How about this, Mangone? Give me a game stack or two. What's kind of jumping out to you? Because we kind of separated, the KC Oakland game, 53.5 as of right now. New Orleans Rams, 53. And then everything else is just sort of in the mix. Of course, the New England Miami game's 47.5, but that pie is cut really funky because, New England's 18-point favorites. And, Baltimore against Arizona's a 45. And it's all a bunch of 40s, basically. Nothing else really jumps off the board. But tell me on your first look, which game you think has the potential to shoot out amongst these numbers in the 40s?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, right? New Orleans Rams, that's the number one game. I totally understand. I know people will be all over that one. Like I said before, I like the idea of that Seattle-Pittsburgh game shooting out a little bit. I think that's an intriguing game that is stackable. And I also like the idea of stacking up that San Francisco and Cincinnati game as well. That's another one that I like that could be a really interesting game to attack. So at first look, those are the 2 games I'd be looking at as the lower owned tournament stacks that maybe people aren't going to. But obviously, the game of the week is going to be the Rams and the Saints.
We didn't talk about it. The running backs of the Rams, are they playable? How playable are they for you?
No,
Okay.
they're not playable.
No, hard pass over here.
The fact that Gurley's not getting that much touchdown equity, which could change, but the fact that he's still $7K, getting a reduced timeshare, and possibly not getting that much touchdown equity is just a massive I'm out.
Brown's a little interesting at 4-1. I'll play Brown before I play Gurley at 7, I think. But I don't think I'm playing either.
Yeah, I'm not playing either.
Yeah. And you see Gurley just kind of take a step. Like, he could have, hit, put his shoulder down, banged his helmet, and somebody grabbed, 5 more yards. He's like, nah, I'm just going to step out of bounds. Did y'all see that? It's just yeah. And I get it. I don't want to bang my head at anybody either, but, I'm not getting paid for it, to do that either. But, all right. Grant, give me a couple of game stacks you like.
Game stacks, Buffalo game stack. We already talked about how the targets are going to be forced to Ingram and Shepard. We know that in all likelihood, if Josh Allen goes off, they're going to have to be passing the ball late in the game, which means a huge amount of points in PPR leagues to both those guys there. So taking a full-on game stack allows you to pay up with pretty much all 3 running backs. Like a full game stack with Allen, Brown, Beasley, Ingram, and Shepard allows you for 7K for the rest of your players.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Shepard talking about it, I think he might have had a concussion, so I'm not really sure if he's cleared to go next week.
Then it'll be even more passes to Ingram and an even better game stack.
Yeah, but if you're building a game stack of that game, which Grant, I think it's a good one. I'm definitely a fan of it. You're not winning by stacking that game and not playing Saquon Barkley, right? That's just not happening.
We said top 3 running backs.
Yeah.
As long as you're playing Barkley in there, that's perfectly fine. I wouldn't be building a Bills Giants stack and not playing Barkley.
I mean, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. Barkley's going to be in for a big game, but who says that all the touchdowns come to a 9K price tag? What are the odds that actually fully pays off? I think it's decent, but you could potentially go for a lower owned game stack and go with Shepard if Shepard is playing. If Shepard's not playing, then you have your game stack right there. It's Barkley, Ingram, and a full Buffalo stack.
Yeah, that not playing Barkley in that game stack feels like a worse idea than my Tom Brady talk earlier in the pod.
That was the serious part of our podcast. Now we're gonna get to shenanigans. Grant, we usually like to encourage people to talk in the comments, on the RotoGrinders page, and we did a good job of that last year. We gave away an RG T-shirt, kind of encourage people to say something. I'm going to put you on the spot. Well, what should we have? We didn't, discuss this or anything, but you always have something on layaway for you. And I'm saying what works. Just kind of buy yourself some time. What should we put in there, this week to maybe encourage people to give us some comments in there, or even answer some kind of goofy question, our favorite answer. We give them a T-shirt.
I mean, I don't think the thing that was immediately off the top of my head was going to be appropriate.
The third thing. Give me the third thing.
Yeah, the first thing the second thing's not good either.
Yeah.
The third thing is, what's the weirdest thing that has probably been found with a stomach X-ray or an MRI in someone's stomach or lower stomach?
What? What's the fourth thing?
Grant, while you think of something good, I will clarify something. So, if you do listen to this podcast, you can listen on iTunes, right? You can also listen on the RotoGrinders page. We're looking for the comments in the RotoGrinders comment section, not on iTunes. So, if you're putting those comments on iTunes, they won't be seen. So, I do want to clarify that.
Podcast, by the way, to ever say don't comment in iTunes. I'm pretty sure.
Guys, comment on iTunes.
No, you should comment on iTunes, right? Give us the likes, give us all those fun things, say it's a great pod. But if you want to contribute in this conversation, Dean, if you want to win a T-shirt,
yes,
you do it in the RotoGrinders section. That's what I'm trying to mention.
Worst first date story.
There you go. That's good. Give us your worst first date story. And do we need proof? I guess there's probably not going to be proof for this, but
even if it's a made up one, if it's hilarious, I'll give it to him. It has to be believable. If it's actually true and not believable, then that'll just be impressive.
Who's the judge of that? If it's so preposterous and so bad, it's probably going to be wow, I can't believe that happened.
I am the judge, the jury, and the executioner here, Dean. I decide.
You're the judge, the jury, the executioner. Mangone's the current host of this podcast as well. I'm just
you got any word first date stories?
Mangone?
Oh, you're asking me? No, I got nothing for you.
No, I'm sure. Grant, do you want to share one, or you want to hold it off on the holster for next week?
I mean, I don't know if I have anything that weird other than multiple times I've thrown up on a first date.
Oh boy, yeah.
And we still continued. She never knew.
Wait, you never made it clear? You went to the bathroom or something like that, or?
Yes.
Yeah, we've had this conversation off air. How you're like you're the classiest person at throwing up. We actually had this conversation.
The most accurate and low-key vomiter you will ever meet.
You know, Liam Neeson says we all have a skill. This will be your very specific skill.
That's one. It's beer chugging, and then whatever the opposite of beer chugging is.
And again, if it wasn't clear, we reiterated a few minutes ago. This is the nonsense portion of this podcast. If you're ready for like football analysis or want football analysis, feel free to step away. Just got a few seconds or so because we have to make our bet. What are we doing here, Grant?
Oh gosh, this is interesting. We could do quarterbacks. I can take Josh Allen. You can take Brady. Mangone can take whoever else he was high on.
Mangone?
I mean, if that's what you guys want to do, I
want Juju. You guys like elite receivers?
Yeah, the problem is the range. Like, I'm definitely down to going. I don't want to touch the Tom Brady thing. I just want to pretend that never happened.
It's math. It's dollar for dollar.
Yeah. I want to move to I like the elite receiver idea. I like going.
Who's your cash game QB right now, Mangone?
I don't, dude. That's not how. I don't know who it is because I don't care about quarterback until the end.
You already said Jared Goff is probably your guy.
It's probably Goff for me right now, at least.
Maybe right now, but I'd rather.
Okay, you don't get an automatic lock pick. These are supposed to be bold calls.
Well, I don't want to be a bold call on Jared Goff. You know who my bold call is? I like Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas is the highest scoring top end receiver. Dean thinks Juju is the top scoring receiver in the high end range. What about
if we just go point per dollar? Give me John Brown.
Humphries again. You want to double down?
No, just give me John Brown if we're doing point per dollar.
Oh, that's a jerk move because you got to be in a similar tier. That's a jerk move.
They're $2K away, so you're essentially getting 4 points roughly.
Yeah, we didn't have to bust out the calculator last week. That wasn't necessary. I did the math in my head. You definitely lost. We might need it with John Brown, but
who was even your guy last week?
Curtis Samuel did crap. He didn't do anything.
I was beating you up until the last 2 minutes. Samuel was at 1.2 points.
He did just enough. Scoreboard. Yeah. So you want Brown? I'll take Juju, and Mangone takes what do you want, Mangone? Thomas?
I want Michael Thomas.
Oh, Mangone's never gonna do a tweet. He just takes all the chalk. Unbelievable.
You act like Michael Thomas is definitely chalk. I don't know if he is.
Well, he's the nuts.
He's a really good player.
Dean, it doesn't matter because Mangone's eventually gonna start making bad decisions.
Oh, okay. I'm looking forward to that.
You get him into a false sense of security. I'm playing the long game.
So you're saying you're rope-a-doping him right now?
Yes.
Fair enough. But I have your tweet, by the way. This is the tweet you have to write out to the people. Now, I'm going to modify this, I suppose. This is probably too long. We might go a completely different direction because I didn't really spend a lot of time on it.
Are you writing me a novel? A Twitter
novel?
It's
not a novel, but it is probably too long. So we all know that Chop won the Million Maker this week. Good for him. Congratulations. And that's why, Mangone, are people not listening to our pod because they listen to the Chop podcast first? Because I feel
that's not until the next day. We come out the day before. They come out on Wednesday.
Fair enough.
Once that pod's out, though, we're on the back.
We're done. We got to hear what this guy's to say. You want $1 million? Who are these three schmucks? Screw these guys. So here you go, Grant. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. This is the tweet you got to fire out there tomorrow. Everyone out here on Twitter slurping Chop for what a good person he is, but I can say from personal to indisputable experience, it's quite the opposite. It was 4 years ago in Vegas. I can distinctly remember holding the door open for him a good 5 seconds. Dude walks right through. No thank you. No head nod. Nothing. F that guy. I hope he goes broke. I
don't want to insult Chop. That's just mean.
I know.
Dean also wrote you a novel.
That's the whole point, though.
I'm going to have to start a blog just to get that in.
I will whittle it down so it works. Is this something you don't want to – I mean, he knows your joke. Chop's a jokester. You could send him a red box coupon. You'll be fine.
I mean, we'll have to modify the tweet, but
oh boy,
them's the rules.
Unbelievable.
We have to modify it because it's a novel and won't fit in 7 tweets.
No, it's only 50 characters over, give or take. But
give or take 100.
No, it's only 71. I guess if you want to get all tactical on me, but
you notice that most of my followers are illiterate and they won't make it past like the third word.
I was just trying. I wanted to. Everybody was saying like, Chop, great guy, love Chop. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, best guy in the industry. And we all like. I think I don't want to speak for everybody. I think we all like Chop, and I just thought it'd be funny if you had to take the position that F him.
Yeah, we'll workshop it, and I guess I'm insulting Chop.
You don't have to add him necessarily. Maybe you should. I don't know, but yeah. And some people probably will have no idea because not everyone listens to the podcast, but
Have we decided are we putting a hashtag on it too? What's the hashtag we're doing? Is that not a thing anymore?
Is it absolutely Epic Pod or Epic Pod or like just the letters?
Just Epic Pod.
Yeah, just Epic Pod. We're stealing that.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You have to add the hashtag at the end. I almost forgot the rules. That could have been way worse.
Then everybody knows you're joshing. They all know you're just kidding around because the hashtag, I guess. And again, you can't respond if anybody says like you're just a big jealous jerk and you suck. What have you ever won? You just got to take it.
I'm pretty good at taking it.
From all the Twitter talk I saw today, like guys are going to be like, dude, yeah, man, you're the best, dude. Those 150 guys are the worst.
You got lucky.
Oh, God.
If I could roll out 50 lineups, I guarantee I'd win it.
I don't get how anyone could possibly think that's a rational argument, considering there's a quarter arcade. So if you're playing over $15 a week, you have zero ability to use that as an excuse.
The key word there, Grant, was rational.
Well, Dean, I don't know if you know this, but every single person on Twitter is rational.
Well, okay. Well, there you go. Including CSU Ram, who's still liking Mangone's tweets, and he's still excited about it. Mangone, give me a final thought. You want to make a bold call or something like that as far as the slate before he step aside and get out of here?
Yeah, dude, this slate is not good. Like, I'm not a huge fan of this slate at all, but yeah, we'll go with my favorite stack. We'll go with the Seattle Seahawks. That game, the Seattle Seahawks and Pittsburgh Steelers. It goes over by 10 points. How's that?
Build it for me. Like, you're saying just like the over, or like build the stack, like just in your head. Like, give me like is like a 3-man and a 2-man the other way, or what are the pieces?
Yeah. We'll go with Russell Wilson, Chris Carson. Chris Carson, Tyler Lockett for the bounce back, and Juju.
Okay, if you're going to sleep on Juju, I was going to be a little upset about that. But all right, Grant, see that, raise it, do whatever you want.
I literally already told you the stack.
Well, say a new one.
Say a new one. Okay, yeah, you want me to give away half my teams? Fine.
It's Monday night, man.
Case Keenum, 3 guys, and Zeke.
3 guys. That's preposterous.
Chris Thompson and 2 wide receivers. You know how much you spend on that? Like $4.
Well, the thing is, you don't know. Yeah, it could be Richardson this week for all we know. But like, it's a bunch of no-namers. But yeah, there are some darks there. They're super cheap. They're all really, really cheap on DK. Quinn is still 3.9. McLaurin is still 3.8. Yeah, that could be interesting.
There you go. Richardson, Thompson, McLaurin. You now spent no more than $4K for a wide receiver or running back.
Juju puts up 150 yards, 10 catches, 2 touchdowns. People forget about how terrible Pittsburgh was the first week. That's it. That's the Absolute Epic podcast. Thank you for listening. He's Grant. He's Mangone. I'm Dean. We're out of here. Holler.
See you, kids.